Good morning. It is Monday, the 29th of April, 2024, and you're watching Morning Brew on Labour Social. I'm Graham Hughes. Yeah, says it there. Hello to everyone in the chat. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about Humza Yousaf, who's just announced he's going to resign from the head of the SNP, which I don't think anyone had on their bingo card, that Rishi Sunak would actually last longer than Humza Yousaf. Who saw that? Who saw that coming? Anyone? No, I didn't. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. But the main topic today is going to be about the upcoming government cuts. Well, what it looks like it's going to be cuts to PIP. It's the personal assisted living bursary, I guess. Bit of universal basic income for people who have disabilities, and you know, all things being equal, it's bugger all. It's a maximum of £184 a week. Most people don't get that. Most people get about £70, £80 a week. You're talking less than £5,000 a year. But the government is going to make this very difficult to get in future going forward. They're going to change the eligibility. Why are they going to do this? Well, because they're cruel. They're horrible, horrible people. They are just disgraceful human beings. That's what they are, the Tories. They are the worst of us in so many ways. Apparently, because the PIP payments will cost approximately 32 billion in 2027, 2028. I don't know why the Tories even care about that. They're not going to be in power then. But because it's going to cost so much, they're going to have a big overhaul of the whole system and cut people's benefits. Disabled. They're going after disabled people now. And as Gary Stevenson has rightly pointed out, during COVID, the government gave £800 billion to already rich people. I feel I'm at breaking point. Can't take it anymore. Sarah, thank you for the super chat. But yeah, I absolutely 100% agree with your sentiment there. The Tories need getting rid of, and it's unfortunate. It's horrible. It's horrible that we have to put up with this. That it's going to go on for the next few months. I'm hoping that no changes are going to actually be made before the election. They're hoping this is red meat to throw to their disgusting 1 in 5 people who still think the Tories have our best interests at heart. Maybe the Tories have the best interests in their hearts. I don't know. I think maybe half of them are millionaires and the other half are just not very nice people who are perhaps, I don't know, their hatred for others, for being different or foreign or disabled, it outweighs their love of their own children, I guess. And they're like, yay, pour more crap in the rivers, pour more shit in the rivers. Just do that. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, keep stealing money off us. Give all our money to your mates and don't actually give us anything in return. Cut public services to the bone. That's right. You'll notice that this month, someone put this out in the chat the other day. You'll start seeing your potholes being filled in if you live in a Tory constituency. I wonder why that might be. Finally, they don't have hearts. No, they just have an icy blob where their heart should be. But yeah, one of the reasons why the government is saying that this is a problem now is because the number of people claiming PIP has gone up, or PIP has gone up massively over the last 5 years. Why? Because of more people going off work with anxiety and depression. Does that surprise anyone? It doesn't surprise me. It really doesn't surprise me one little goddamn bit, because the Tories make everyone anxious and make everyone feel depressed. It's not just me and Sarah. It's not just the other people in the chat. It's literally everyone I know is feeling down, is feeling like the future is not bright. It might be orange, though, if Trump gets in. The anxiety that we are feeling right now is like nothing we have ever experienced before as a collective. We don't just have the worst government we have ever had in this country. Ever. And that's saying something. You know, this government we have at the moment is worse than the government that we had when slavery was legal. That's how bad they are. They're worse than the governments we had when we had rotten boroughs, MPs elected with one person in the constituency. And that one person was the MP. It's worse than that now. If you can believe it, it is worse than that now. We have never seen mental illness go up this quickly as a direct result of the policies enacted by these scumbag Tories who all they want to do is make you work. That's it. Work every day to make money for their billionaire chums, and they want you to work till the day you die. That's their ideal scenario. And preferably for the Tories, this is how scummy they are. This is how evil they are. They would rather you took yourself out than have to pay for expensive, cancer treatments or, expensive treatment for Parkinson's or other, ailments that we can't actually fix and that, affect people when they get older a lot more than they used to. And cancer's affecting more people now than ever before. The NHS has been cut to its bone. 250 people dying a week in this country. Do you want to put that into a bit of perspective? 250 people a week haven't died in Gaza. That's how many people have died in the UK. Every week. From waiting in A&E. Not to mention the fact that you can't get a doctor's appointment for 2 weeks. And on top of that, people waiting in agony. I know pensioners who are waiting for hip operations and knee operations. They are living in absolute pain all the time, having to take medication to manage the pain. And instead of waiting a couple of months like we used to when Labour were in power and, the NHS was seen as the best health service in the world, now we have to wait 2 years. 2 years in chronic pain to get an appointment, to get an operation. When we talk about mental health, it is so difficult now to get a mental health diagnosis because the government have cut the funding to the bone because they've given all our money to their rich mates who have buggered off with it. There's a story today about taxes and tariffs and duties being put on British goods coming into Ireland has netted the Irish government just something shy of $1 billion. €1 billion. €1 billion off the back of Brexit. I'm glad that everyone else is having a good time at Brexit, apart from, us. Anyway, so this is the plan of the Tories. They're going to change the eligibility for PIP. They're going to maybe have a one-off grant instead of ongoing costs, because that's when you're disabled. It's not like you go, oh, I've got a wheelchair now, everything's fine. Everything is more difficult. Everything costs more. I'll give you an example. For things cost more. We were talking about the other day. We were talking about hearing aids and the fact that if you want hearing aids that allow you to do your job, you have to pay for them. If you want hearing aids just to make everything a bit louder, then you can get them on the NHS. But they just make everything louder and they make your hearing worse. Whereas the ones that are just targeted on the frequencies, that the bespoke hearing aids that have been programmed to your range of deafness, they cost money. You've got to buy them, right? And they cost a lot of money. You'd be on your PIP for about 3 months before you could afford it. That's if you weren't spending any money on food or anything else. This idea that the people of this country are lazy and feckless and they just don't want to work is an absolute nonsense. It's a lie. It's a pernicious lie that the Tories like to trot out. And that scumbag Rishi Sunak, our Prime Minister, not for much longer, thank God, he's standing there saying, oh, these people, people expect something from nothing. This is a guy who was born into wealth, who went to Winchester, who married the daughter of a billionaire. And yet, who claimed non-dom status while living in Downing Street. And yet, he says, he has the gall, the audacity to say that we're all lazy. We just can't be bothered. People want something for nothing in this life, don't they? Might be true for you, Rishi, and your cocaine snorting mates in Parliament, but the rest of us, no, we want to work. We want to do something constructive with our lives. And you know what? Some jobs aren't constructive and people don't want to do them. And because of the rise of robotics and AI and things like that, we don't need to do them. We need a whole overhaul of this entire system because it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense at all to anyone. Our generation, or I say my generation, sort of older millennials, younger Gen Xers, we're looking at a future where we're never going to retire. We are never going to be allowed to retire. My mum still works. She's going to be 75 this year. She still works full time. And I think that's the way that most of us are going to go because we simply cannot afford to retire. Meanwhile, there is a group of boomers who retired in their 50s on a final salary pension, something that doesn't exist anymore. And they've spent the last 30 years having a great time, buying a new car every year, going on a cruise. Yeah, this is great. I'm getting paid for nothing. Literally for doing nothing. You're getting paid for not working. Just sit on your arse all day, tend to your garden, do what you like. That's all right. No, because they work for 30 years, so they get to not work for 30 years on the salary that they would have had. Seriously, and who's paying for that, by the way? Do you think that the amount of money that they saved up in their pension fund when they were working, do you think that adds up to the amount that they've taken out over the last 30 years? Has it bollocks? That's being paid for by the current workers in that company or working towards that particular pension fund who are working now, who are never going to be able to retire. What a great system. And who do the majority of boomers vote for? Not all boomers, hashtag not all boomers. I'm not saying every single boomer votes for the Tories, but oh my God, a lot of them vote for the Tories. A lot. And they also voted for Brexit in greater numbers than any other cohort, including the greatest generation, which, you know, not many of them left anymore now, especially after COVID, especially after care homes where, you know, they catapulted plague-ridden bodies over the parapets into the castles that were under siege in order to spread the plague in the castle so they could win the... Oh, no, there wasn't castles. It was care homes. But it had the same effect, didn't it? Anyway, so, bit passionate about this. I think it's absolutely disgraceful. The government have created a society, a country of depression and anxiety caused by their policies. I've lost my pen. Caused by their policies. And then they have the audacity to say, oh, there's too many people with anxiety and depression. Let's take their money off them. Do you know what causes more anxiety and depression and breakdowns in families, in friendships, and especially in relationships? Finance, money problems with money. The government could take all that away, but no, it wants to make a bad situation worse because these Tories are absolute scum and they need destroying. The party needs annihilating. We need to get rid of them forever. And I saw an amazing stat just before the weekend, which was that in a poll taken of GBBs, like Gammon Box News, GB News viewers, right? A poll of the people who are so stupid that they watch Gammon Box News, so politically misinformed that they watch Gammon Box News and think it's, I don't know, news or entertainment. It's neither. But like they watch that, according to Ofcom, it's not anyway. And yeah, they're watching this. 11% more of them are going to vote Labour this time around than the Tories. Even on Galaxy. Look, the Tories are on the way out. They are absolutely 100% on their way out. And I don't just want them slightly beaten. I don't want to give them a bloody nose so they, rise back to finish the fight. No. I want them crushed to dust and scattered, blown to the four freaking winds. I was gonna have a chat with Femi about this because he's put out some videos saying I want a hung parliament. And I want to have it out with him on that one because I don't want a hung parliament. I do not want to. What, you're going to have a coalition with the Lib Dems and the Green. I love to say Greens, but there's only going to be one Green MP if they're lucky. But Yeah, why would I want that? We've got loads of stuff to do really, really quickly. I don't really want to be spending loads of time discussing it in committees and getting it all, perfect for the Lib Dems to want as well, when they only got, let's say, 12% of the vote. Seems a bit unfair for them to have a stranglehold over everything that the government want to do. Look, I'm all for PR, but we don't have PR. Honestly, we don't have time for this right now. We need to get the Tories out, and we need to put some reforms in place immediately when Labour get into power to save our economy. Because, like I say, big thing causing anxiety and depression is the fact that our economy hasn't grown. Our economy hasn't grown since 2007. My God, it's been 17 years. 17 years on our economy hasn't grown. The longest sustained stagnation of our economy in our history. In our history. At least things picked up after the freaking war. My God. And the other thing that the Tories also do is that, they take away hope. They took away our ability to go and live and work anywhere we wanted around Europe. They took that ability away from us. There's no escape. Don't fence me in, sang Frankie Lane. And the Tories are like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Let's box them all in. Yeah. Absolute scum. Absolute freaking scum. They cause the anxiety, they cause the depression, and then they turn around and they say, oh no, they don't exist. We're not going to give you any help. Get back to work, you plebs. Hate them. Anyway, right. I'm going to get into the chat now. The closer we get to the election, the more it feels like 1997. Yeah, 1997 ended up with the Tories getting about 150 MPs back in. I mean, I'm just hoping it's going to be a lot less than that. I'm hoping that it's going to be like 15. I want them that destroyed. I want the Lib Dems to be the official opposition. And yeah, they can hold Labour to account. Great. Good. But to be honest with you, when it comes to parliamentary majorities, if you've got 50 or 250, it doesn't really matter. You can still get the stuff through that you want to do if you've got that much of a buffer zone, so that individual MPs who have a crisis of confidence or whatever, or conscience, crisis of conscience, don't vote, threaten to vote against any particular policy. You don't have to worry about that with a 50-seat majority. You still don't have to worry about it with a 250-seat majority. It doesn't give them more power. It doesn't allow them to do more things that they want to do, because once you're in power in this country, because of the first past the post system, you're in power. You can do what you like for 5 years, as the Tories have shown over the last 14 years, where they have just turned this place, which I was quite proud of. In 2012, I was in Sri Lanka. I remember when I was watching the London Olympic ceremony, the opening ceremony. I was on a beach in Unawatuna in Sri Lanka, and I watched the opening ceremony on the beach, and it was great. It just really made me feel like, oh my God, I come from a surprisingly cool country. And do you know what? Growing up in the 80s and 90s, I never thought I'd feel like that. And we got to that point, and the Tories have ripped it all apart. They've ripped it all down. They've made it crap again, like they did last time, like they do every time. And this is why they need destroying. Anuksha Shara Metef, hi, thank you very much for the super chat. I just got pipped back in December after a 7-month wait in April 2023. I'm scared again. Thank you very much, Graham. Thank you for the super chat. That's really generous. I think what the Tories are doing is completely disgraceful. We all have a vested interest in the continued support of people who are disabled, who are going through stuff. We have enough friends and family in our lives, or maybe even ourselves, who are just struggling right now. And this isn't helping. It's just adding to the anxiety. What do they want? A fucking deterrent. Is this a deterrent? Is this a Tory deterrent? Oh yeah, don't you even think about getting anxious, because look at what we're going to do if you get anxious. Rah! I'm like, oh my God. Like, who thinks that way? We'll get rid of all this anxiety by, creating more anxiety. That'll work. And then you've got, it's like the deterrent of the small boats. Oh, we'll send them to Rwanda. That'll stop them coming. It's like, you're only going to send 1%. 1% of people, if that, to Rwanda. Probably no one's going to end up going there. It's not a deterrent at all. And then you've got the Tories still trotting out onto the TV screen going, well, you've got to separate out there's lots of people coming over here who are not real asylum seekers. And you're like, it makes no difference in this new policy. It makes every single asylum seeker coming to this country, anyone applying for asylum in this country, because you can only apply if you're in the country. There is no website. There is no embassy you can go to anywhere else that you can give your details to and say, hey, can I have asylum in 6 months, in 12 months, in 18 months, in 2 years? You can't do that. You have to come to this country. You have to step foot on the soil and then you say, can I have asylum, please, now? That's the way the system works because that's the way the Tories have set it up. They could have a processing centre in France. They could have a website that you can access after visiting an embassy anywhere in the world, a British embassy, or British High Commission. You go in, you have your photograph taken, you have your fingerprints taken, you have your irises scanned. That information is put on a database. You then apply for asylum. And if you turn up here, it's not going to be a 2-year wait to decide whether you can stay or not, because if we've already said no, we've already said no. Ugh. And they will be told in no uncertain terms that if they come here having had their asylum application rejected, then they will be deported back to their home country. And I'll tell you, they will not come here if they have been told no. They will not come here. Obviously, they won't come here. Do you know why? Because they don't want to be sent back to their home country and there's other countries to apply for asylum in. They can spend the rest of their life applying for asylum in different countries. Fine. I don't care. If that's what they want to do, if that's the situation they find themselves in. But the idea that we are going to stop people coming over in small boats by saying, hey, 1 in 100 of you, we're going to send you to this African Republic. Yeah. It's infuriating because it's not just morally bankrupt, it is economically illiterate. It's absolute. The cost of this. The Tories are whinging about the fact that British people are costing too much money. At the same time, we're giving £800 million to Rwanda. £800 million freaking pounds to Rwanda. A country that is on the verge of war with its neighbour, the Democratic Republic of Congo. Actually, it's at war. In all but name. I mean, there are literal people being paid by the Rwandan government to kill people around Goma in the Democratic Republic of Congo. But it's a safe country because our government has declared it a safe country. Man, oh man. Anyway, let's get back onto your comments. They're going to get... Oh, I've got a super chat just come in. So, I'm going to stop everything. Super chat. Thank you very much, Ivan. There must be legal challenges and the Tories taken to court for their evil and demonising policies on disabled people. Yeah, I absolutely couldn't agree more. I think the Good Law Project are going to be all over this, and quite rightly as well, because it is it's a human rights violation. And it's going back, it's harking back to that Victorian and eugenics, Nazi eugenics idea that people who are disabled are useless. And they're just, there was a term that they used in Nazi Germany. Idi Amin killed hundreds of disabled people during his reign of terror, perhaps thousands in his reign of terror. When he was in charge in Uganda, Hitler went after disabled people. Like I say, I've told you this a million times, but my partner is disabled and she has a PhD in physics from Durham University. She's like head of a department at a very big company in the UK. Like, she earns a lot more than me. Let's put it that way. The idea that disabled people can't do anything or don't want to do anything with their lives is abhorrent. It's ableist propaganda. It's disgusting. It's disgraceful. We need to make some reasonable adjustments, but they're reasonable. You put a disabled ramp in. It doesn't just help the people in wheelchairs. It helps the people with pushchairs as well. Parents with their kids going up. You make it easy to get on the train for wheelchair users. You make it easier for people on bicycles. You make it easier for people wheeling the bicycles. So I don't mean ride your bicycle onto a train. I mean wheeling it onto the train. It makes it easier for everyone. If you had subtitles on all cinema screenings, that would be great for me. I'm ADHD. I would love that. I would absolutely love, because I miss stuff, especially in a Christopher Nolan film when the soundtrack is too loud and everyone mumbles and I can't understand that freaking word anyone says. Or you've got like the Dark Knight Returns, where it's he did, that was his movie, wasn't it? I was gonna go. And another example is another Christopher Nolan movie, but bloody Bane talking with his goatsy mask on. Sorry to bring back horrible memories for the early internet people out there. And he's still going, and you're like, what? And this is like, this score is so loud, and the sound effects. You're like, what's he saying? Give me. Sometimes I'm not deaf, but I would like them as well. And this is the thing, you make reasonable adjustments for people and it helps everybody across the board in some way or another. And the idea that we have to make life more difficult for people whose lives are already difficult is the most, it's the most repugnant form of sadism that just typifies this Tory government and their attitude, their thinking, their mentality is sick. They're the real sick people. And yet we pay them like bloody £100,000 a year and they get an extra special second house for some reason. Put them all in the hotel, for God's sake. I'm Batman, says Duke Vengeance. Excellent, good stuff. Steady Graham, making it easier for people, says Beverly. Well, indeed, yeah. What a horrible world that would be. I'm going to just quickly run through the papers because it is 10 o'clock, although I did start a little bit late. So here are the papers, I think. Hey. I need to time that click a little bit better, I think, in future. What's this on my back? Oh, it's a little bit that comes down. Daily Express, Dame Esther, I'm fighting for my family and a lot of us. This is to do with Esther Ranson, who is fighting, quite rightly, I feel, for the right to die. Voluntary euthanasia, which is, or assisted euthanasia in some cases, which is illegal in this country for some reason. We afford that kindness to our pets, but we don't afford it to our own mothers and fathers and grandparents. I don't understand why we have to allow people to live in pain, horrific, crippling pain for the last 6 months of their lives when they don't have to. I just don't see I don't see the logic. Tens of thousands exploiting hidden asylum loophole. Of course, the Daily Mail is going with the asylum angle. And this is a good example, actually, of just why newspapers are obsolete, because this is yesterday's news. Come on. Humza Yousaf has resigned. I mean, we've got a story going on here. Can we? A lot will happen. A lot to happen today, says Scotland's former Deputy First Minister. And then we've got the question of who's going to replace Humza Yousaf, and if there's going to be an election. That might be an election in Scotland before the bloody general election. Who had that on the bingo card? Not me. Anyway, but yeah, this is yesterday's news. But yeah, foreign nationals allowed into UK on time-limited visas and then lodging claims to stay indefinitely. Leak. Why is this a leak? Why is this even news? We know most people who are here illegally outstay their visas. They had the money and they had a visa and they stayed illegally. You know, in Australia, where they were sending people over to the island of Nauru, into a horrible detention centre in the middle of nowhere with no water, and people took their own lives. Do you remember that? Do you remember Nauru? Yeah, great policy by the Australians. The fact was that the vast majority of people who shouldn't have been in Australia at the time were people outstaying the visas. A vast number of them were Brits, British people outstaying their visas. That was actually a bigger problem, and possibly a bigger drain on Australian resources. But, you know, whatever. Depressed and anxious face losing their benefit. I mean, that just sums up what I've been talking about for the show. Tories plan welfare reform as election divide, it says there. I don't really understand. Election divide, to divide them from Labour. So we're going to be monsters. And Labour are going to be, we're not. And some people say Labour are just as bad as the Tories. Exhibit A, I think, is right here. Like, no. UK attacks EU double standards on migrants. Of course, the Daily Telegraph going for the old 1-2 there, having an attack on migrants and on the EU, because apparently double standards now in the EU. Yeah, right. And then you've got time is up, Mr. Sunak. That's from the Mirror. PM dodges question 5 times. The pressure goes to name date. So this was yesterday. Rishi Sunak was interviewed on the TV and he refused 5 times to say when the election was going to be, but he didn't rule out the election being in July. Home Office to detain UK asylum seekers in shock. Rwandan move. So this is now turning people who are claiming asylum in this country into criminals who will be detained like they're criminals, like they've done something wrong when they absolutely haven't. And there's Nicole Kidman who won an award yesterday. Diabetes care hit by insulin shortages. Sorry there. This is an important story here because of Brexit. Basically, we aren't getting as many medicines as we should do. I know there's a shortage around the world, but in particular, we are snookered because we're no longer part of common EU policies to make sure that enough medicines go around. And it's not just insulin, it's also ADHD medication and HRT, hormone replacement therapy for menopausal women and for people undergoing gender realignment, realignment. It's just, this is a Tory policy that's led to this. I mean, just everything here. Newspaper, Sunak to resist early election as Tory rebels on manoeuvres. And just the Star, whatever. The bitter harvest to hit UK in the pocket. Prices coming a cropper. The price of beer has gone through the roof as wet weather has hit farms and destroyed the hop production, which can only be produced in certain climates and certain latitudes. Most of those latitudes being in Europe. And we used to have a thing called the Common Agricultural Policy, which means that this wouldn't be a thing had it not been for Brexit. The reason the price of your pint is about to go through the roof, even more than it already has done over the last few years, is because of Brexit. Don't forget to tell your granddad or your racist uncle drinking in Wetherspoons why their price of their beer has doubled. So it's the Brexit benefit, that is. There you go, your Brexit tax. Enjoy it. The taste of the bitter taste of freedom. Kremlin scoops 800 million euros in taxes from foreign banks that remained in Russia. Disgrace. There you go. But there you go. Bankers for you. They'll get any of my respect. Hi, Tiny Graham, says Tommy. Hello. Oh no, I'm big again now. I'm thinking G would be October, November. I really don't want it to be Gary because it's cold then. I don't want to be doorstepping in the cold. Pikachu, and with good reason. She does strike me as a small C Conservative, Tartan Tory because of her leadership campaign last year. I don't know who you're referring to there, but yeah. Lee says, talking to a taxi driver last week, she went to a taxi driver. She went to get a prescription of asthma inhalers and asked the pharmacist if she really needed them. She could squeeze a bit more at the old one, FFS. Yeah, that's because of Brexit. I hope you told her it was because of Brexit. A friend of mine bought Paul Mag this morning and a copy of the Star. He placed the Star within the Paul Mag. That's from David. That's from Freckle Puny, sorry. And who else have we got? The world's gone mad, says Plum Duff. Well, no. We haven't. They have. The people in charge have. They've gone mad with power. Absolute power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. And the billionaires who for the most of the 20th century were brought to heel in some way, were just allowed to just run amok in the 80s and up till now. And this is the world that they've created. A dirty, polluted, toxic world where the air is killing us. We can't swim in the rivers because of all this shit. The ozone hole is now settling over Antarctica. You thought that had gone away. No, it hasn't because of global warming. It's come back with a vengeance, causing skin cancer with animals, but also, that hole in the ozone layer spreads. We could see it over Australia again, like we did in the 80s, like we did when we banned CFCs. Maybe that will encourage the world to start banning fossil fuels, but it's going to be an uphill struggle. It really is, because the vested interest, the people with the billions do not want us to make our lives healthier. They don't want us to improve our current existence. They don't want to make things better for the future. They just want money. They just want greed. They just don't care. They just don't care one little bit about you or me or anyone but themselves. And they need to be brought to heel. And I'll go back to the 1960s, if you don't mind, for when the Beatles were whining about having to pay 95% tax on their earnings. They were singing songs about it. Good. Were the Kinks singing about it as well? Taxman's taken all my dough, left me in my stately home. Was that the Kinks? Fine, good. Take it all. Take it all. Bring in a wealth tax. It's time to go. Give inheritance tax. Anything over £1 million, go straight to the government. That's it. That's the rule. You get £1 million, which is more than enough to get yourself started. Bastards. Anyway, right. Sarah says, we wish we could have a way of calling a vote of no confidence in the government and force an election. Unfortunately, we can't. Humza Yusuf news conference at 12, so we'll find out about whether he's going to resign. He is going to resign. I think he said that he's definitely going to resign. Graham, I think you strained your voice earlier in the stream. You're sounding a bit off. Says Johan. Yeah, I need more tea. Worked at the pharmacy just after breakfast. Just after Brexit, because these shortages coming and the government was aware. Yeah. There's also things like testing, like batches of drugs have to be tested on the soil of the EU, and the government didn't put anything in place to make it so it was easier for our pharmaceutical companies to sell stuff to the EU. So a lot of pharmaceutical production moved to the EU as a result of that. Anyway, yes, indeed. I think the thing we forget in the 1930s, we had the government and national unity. Well, yeah, after the war started. Right, okay, I'm going to get off now. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll be making more content for you this week. I'm going to get back on the horse because I realised that I have not been making as much stuff for you lovely people as I have been previously. There's been a lot going on. But Phil will be back definitely tomorrow at 9:30 for Morning Brew. And also, if you would like to watch Geoscope with me and Ollie, bowler hat man, who's lovely, we've moved that to 7:30 on Tuesdays. And what we're going to do for the first time tomorrow is we're going to do a raid afterwards to Maximilian's stream. So if you're watching our stream, you should automatically be redirected to Maximilian's stream when that starts at 8:30 tomorrow as well. So that'd be quite fun. We'll see if it works. Join us to see if it works. But yeah, until then, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for the chat. Thanks for the super chat. Give us a like on the way out. Consider becoming a patron or a YouTube member because that really helps us out in the long run. And until next time, I'll say thanks for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.